Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to puff him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Hey, Barry Manning here. Noah Dalzell alongside after the Celtics' first practice of training camp, where we finally got to talk to all the centers at this point. Neemias Queta talked yesterday at Media Day. Chris Boucher spoke for the first time since joining Boston as well. We've heard from Luka Garza a couple times at this point. And Xavier Tillman, who the average fan probably isn't super interested in him at this point, but I was dying to hear where he's at because he basically left the rotation in November last year and then disappeared. And who knew if he was even going to be back this year, but said he's healthy, lost 12 pounds, got the knee swelling down, which we hadn't heard about, but I had assumed hurt him last year as he tried to get back on the court.
Yeah, and I think, fans typically, we have a little bit of in the outside world, a little bit of a short-term memory where right now it's like who was the guy that played well most recently. But after the finals, I think people were thrilled that the Celtics re-signed Xavier Tillman on a 2-year minimum deal.
Yeah, everyone said it was a steal.
Yeah, and he obviously dealt with knee issues that he detailed pretty candidly, as he typically is with the media, starting to have some swelling in January and then how he had some injections in March that helped. And he said that over the summer he didn't have any flare-ups. And it's just for a basketball player to have knee problems, knee pain, it's so debilitating. We've seen that with Jalen. We've seen that with countless players throughout, modern Celtics history. And so if he's healthy and he's confident, because that was the other thing, you could tell he just completely lost his confidence on the court last year, then I think he could be a factor in the front court. I don't know how those three guys stack up against one another, but he's certainly in the mix for front court opportunities.
That's where he's at. It feels like everyone's excited about Luka Garza. There's been numerous players who have raved about his offseason, his progress. He's down a bunch of weight from the start of his career. I think he said he went from 270 to 238. Now he's at about 250, and all these guys are preparing to run. Lost weight, early practice returns, or that they're going to be flying up and down the court, the big men at least. We all think it's going to be Queta. Brad Stevens was non-committal there, left it open for a battle, and I'd imagine that's how Joe Mazzulla is going to handle this situation as well. But it would be surprising to see anyone other than Queta at the center spot to start opening night. How much of a competition do you think this is?
I think it's definitely a competition because as much as maybe Queta is the front runner to starting is ultimately not the end-all be-all, and we also know that things are going to change a lot throughout the season, and so all three of those guys have the opportunity to be like the primary center on this team, which is kind of wild when you think about where all three of those guys were last year. Luka Garza was buried in the Minnesota Timberwolves rotation. Neemias Queta, Xavier Tillman, they were kind of buried behind three very capable centers in Boston. So the reality is they're looking at one another, and somebody has to win this battle, right? So there's probably not going to be someone that comes out here and just blows us away with this perfect all-around game, because if they were, they wouldn't be on a minimum contract having not played last year. But somebody's going to separate themselves, and it's probably going to be multiple guys that end up getting minutes. But it's definitely the biggest question around this team right now, where we do have certainty around the backcourt and Jalen and his health. And I think there's a lot of things that I kind of expect will pan out the way that we hope, we think. The front court remains a mystery.
Yeah, for sure. And they got some options there. Queta, definitely the most seasoned of them. Tillman's played, but hasn't in a while, at least showing that he can do some stuff out there, hitting threes, defense, going to have to get him involved. He's a 4/5, and I think Stevens looked at it that way too when he was talking over the offseason. Boucher, another name there as well, who I'm excited about. The per 36 numbers for him are just awesome, and he's experienced, can shoot threes, can guard a bunch of positions. I don't know how much we'll actually see him at center, but it's an option, and he's done it in Toronto as well.
Yeah, certainly, and I think one of the things that you think about is who's going to be able to shoot from the outside, because obviously it's been such a hallmark characteristic of this team to have a five-man that can shoot. And Chris Boucher, I think, has more experience shooting threes at the NBA level than the other guys we've mentioned. Obviously, Luka Garza, you hope that the shot will come around. Queta remains kind of an open question. We saw him hit a few threes at Eurobasket, but that's not been a part of his game. So I think Chris Boucher right now, he comes in, is actually the most experienced guy that's played the most NBA minutes, and so he has a little bit of a leg up in that sense as well.
Another takeaway from practice today, flying around the pace, another topic after all the discussion about it yesterday. Garza said they were flying around. Here's how Tillman's describing the style of play from Celtics practice so far.
Think of like a NASCAR pit stop where you just don't stop moving, right? And it's just like as soon as you go in, the guys are exchange, and we're out. That's what it is. As soon as we cross half court, it's we're on it.
What does that mean for the guys in the front court?
You'll see us in a lot of actions at half court, setting a lot of picks and stuff like that. Depending on your game, if you're a pop, if you're a roller, mixing in the two, and then the front court we're gonna have to run a lot.
So we got more insight on that as well. Pace is definitely something they want to do. Joe cautioned a little bit that pace can be an overused term. And then the hockey line stuff we were talking about, he pushed completely back on that Walsh mentioned. We were excited about that idea of guys shuffling in and out of games pretty rapidly and there being this frenetic pace that guys hold up for and then sub out. I guess they're not going to do that now.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe Jordan wasn't supposed to reveal that to the media or if he oversimplified it. But what we do know is that for most of Joe's tenure, the Celtics have been more talented than whoever they match up against. And so they can just kind of look at their, whatever the 5 guys are that are on the floor facing them and think, we have 4 advantages in these matchups. And so their MO became matchup hunting a lot of times, right? The killer rail offense. I don't think you're going to see as much of that because they're not going to have this pure, sizable talent gap all the time. So you have to make up with that by running, by cutting more, by sharing the ball better, less ISO heavy.
Do you think they're going to cut more? They haven't mentioned that specifically.
I think they're going to cut more. I think it's just something that has worked for teams across the league. You look at the Pacers last year, that was kind of a hallmark characteristic, and I think they're going to have to change things, right, to make up for the fact that they lost talent. You can't keep the systems the same when you lost so many key members of your personnel. And Joe's thing has always been, I'm not obsessed with threes. It's just that this is what fits this roster. So you look at this roster now, I think there's no reason why they can't cut quite a bit.
Joe also pushing back again on the starting conversation, said it's not about starting and bench in terms of roles. So that'll be a question as we stack up who's going to open the preseason game in about a week from now, the preseason opener, as well as opening night when they eventually get to that decision. Could be some mixing and matching there, I'd imagine, but nothing new in terms of who's looking to start and what roles they could be. Who do you think should start at center, that 4 spot? Should they do double big? Should they go smaller? Let us know below. But for now, Queta, Tillman, Boucher, as well as Luka Garza all competing for center minutes right now in training camp. We'll be back here tomorrow with another practice as camp continues. For Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. This has been Practice Report here on CLNS Media.